What is up, everybody? My name is Matt Wong, and I don't exactly know how this happened, but over the past 4 years, I ended up working at literally 4 different companies. I've worked at most of the major medical device companies, including Medtronic, Boston Scientific, Abbott, and in those companies, I've worked at several different types of jobs, including research and development, quality, and now marketing. And today, I'm going to share with you 4 of the most important lessons that I've learned having worked at a bunch of different places in a bunch of different jobs, so let's get into it. So the first lesson is that it's not how much work you do, it's how much work you do that gets noticed. And I learned this at my very first job as an R&D intern at Medtronic. I remember sitting in the lab one day and I was with my supervisor and she was telling me how she was super overworked and she was running like 5 different projects at one time. She was working way more hours than she was used to. And I said some throwaway comment where I was like, well, I guess you just have to keep working hard and moving things down the pipeline, right? And she told me, she said, Matt, it does not matter how much work you do. It matters that people know that you're doing the work, because if you don't take credit for the work that you do, you may as well have not done it at all. And what I understood from that conversation was that she had made that mistake. She didn't take credit for all of the work that she was doing, and so her manager piled on a bunch more projects for her to do because he thought that she could handle them when actually she was already at capacity. And in addition, if you think about this in terms of like career progression, right? Your achievements that are going to be listed when you're being considered for a promotion or for a good raise, they can't consider achievements and things that you've done that they don't know that you did. So you have to always be taking credit along the way, even if it's something super insignificant. And so now I am always extremely vocal about what I'm doing, about, what I've accomplished, because I know that the more vocal that I am, the more that I take credit for my achievements, the more they're going to be able to advocate for me when I'm being considered for a raise or for a promotion. Lesson number 2 has to do with something that we have all experienced at one point or another, and that is imposter syndrome. So lesson number 2 is you always have way more value than you think you do. And this is true for 2 reasons, okay? The first one is that your value as an employee goes way beyond your functional job duties that you don't even know how to do yet. You have to remember that your manager hired you out of all the different candidates, right, that they interviewed. They thought your skills, your experiences were going to make you the most successful at this job. They didn't hire you because they thought you knew everything already. They know that you don't know anything about how the company works or about how they do things. So don't feel like you have to know that stuff right away. What they hired you for was your potential to be successful. And so as you continue to learn, as you continue to figure things out, you will realize that potential. And so the second reason why this is true is something I've observed across every single job that I've been at, and it's been very consistent, is that 90% of people at any given company have no idea what they're doing and they have no idea what's going on. Aside from like their little 1% of what they know, they have no idea about anything else. And I honestly think that this is because the older generation of workers, the way that they did things, the way that work was done back then, was that learning and growing and doing stuff that's going to push you outside of your comfort zone was not a part of their work culture. It just wasn't something that they did. And so instead, they were more in the ascend the ladder by putting in your hours, by putting in your number of years. And so you have all of these people in these senior level positions that just like don't know what they're doing. I've had so many stories of this where I learned something within like the first month of starting a new job, and then like 6 months down the line, I hear someone asking a question of like, what is this? I'm like, dude, that's like a basic thing. How do you not know this already? This is like, everyone at the company should know this. And so it just goes to show that most people, they have one thing that they know how to do and they know nothing else, and they're totally fine with it. So what that means for you is that if you just like make a concerted effort to learn something every day, every week, in a period of like 6 months, you'll probably know more than like most of the people at that company. And I'm not exaggerating here. I literally think it's like 80 to 90% of people that are like this. The third lesson that I have learned is that no matter where you work or what you do, the soft skills and the evergreen skills of like sales, marketing, networking, persuasion, being relatable are what are going to move you forward. You could be a super mediocre engineer, data scientist, recruiter, whatever it is that you do, and still be more successful than the absolute best person at that thing if you are better at the evergreen and soft skills. And so it's law of diminishing returns, right? You have to be like a baseline level of competent at your job, but then after that, the soft skills are really what propel you forwards. That's how the people who are really successful got that way. It's not because they were like amazing engineers or amazing scientists. Sometimes that happens, but more often than not, it's because they were really good at selling themselves, persuading people to get on their side, and people liked them, right? Take me for an example. I used to be a quality engineer. I'm not that amazingly smart of a person. Like, I was not a hard worker. I was not the best engineer around, but I got people to like me. I marketed myself to interviewers, and now I have multiplied my responsibility, my salary. I've achieved way more career success than if I would have just stayed an engineer and gotten really good at engineering. And so the takeaway for lesson 3 is focus on the soft skills way more than you think you need to, okay? They are skills that you have to practice. They're not just like innate personality traits that you either have it or you don't. Sales and marketing take a lot of practice. It takes practice to learn how to empathize with people, how to relate to people, how to get people to like you. And if you can do these things and you can master these, it will take you far in your career and in life. Lesson number 4 is doing more work does not equal more pay, and more pay does not equal doing more work. Okay, for better or for worse, the way our society is set up right now is that the hardest workers in the room are not the ones that make the most money. Instead, it is the ones who generate the most perceived value. It's an emphasis on perceived here, because this is by no means always the case. And so if you go above and beyond at your job, right, you're taking on all this extra responsibility, you're taking on all these extra hours, you're working hard in the hopes of getting promoted, like maybe you'll get promoted, maybe you'll get a good raise, but like maybe not. I mean, these bigger companies, especially the big Medtronics of the world, they have very mature promotion and pay increase cycles, right? So they probably only have so many of the top spot that they can give out every year that exceeds expectations, the one that gets you the highest raise. There's only so many of those spots that they can give. There's only so many promotions that they can give out in a given year. So you could be working as hard as you possibly can and it wouldn't matter because there's simply not a spot for you. And guess who has the spots? It's the people who use the evergreen skills to market themselves and who are well liked by management. Another reason why this is true is because not all job functions are created equally, okay? Every industry has positions that are more highly valuable than others, even though they're the same level on paper, okay? For example, in the medical device industry, R&D and marketing pretty much drive the bus, okay? They have the most influence, they make the most decisions, and so they make the most money, right? I didn't want to do R&D, so I did marketing, and I make way more money than I would have if I was the equivalent level of an engineer had I stayed a quality engineer. And so it doesn't really matter how hard I would have worked as a quality engineer. I wouldn't have made the same amount of money as I do now as a marketing manager at the same level because marketing is just more highly valued in the industry. And so the takeaway from lesson number 4 is make sure to align yourself with the functions that are most valuable in your industry, because that way you can make more money while doing less work. And with that, that is the end of the video. So if you liked the video, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment about what you thought about these tips and whether this has been your experience as well. And if you want more, go watch this video about how you can take control of your career, gain high value skills, and make the maximum amount of money. And I will see you in the next one.